I still remember the weight of the crystal glass in my hand as I stood to make a toast. The chandelier light caught in the amber liquid as I raised it high. My company, Veritas Media, had just hit a $20 million valuation. After 5 years of grueling work, endless nights, and countless sacrifices, we'd made it. My parents and sister sat around the table in my dining room, their faces glowing with pride. Or so I thought. To family, I said, my voice thick with emotion. Without you, none of this would be possible. That's when my father cleared his throat. He adjusted his collar and shared a quick glance with my mother. Actually, Ariana, we need to discuss something, he said, his tone suddenly businesslike. We've made Melody the majority shareholder of Veritas. The paperwork was finalized yesterday. The glass nearly slipped from my fingers. My sister Melody's lips curved into a smile that didn't reach her eyes. It's better this way. My father continued. She has more business experience. The room started spinning. Melody had never once set foot in my company. I'd built Veritas from nothing while she'd bounced between jobs. I set down my glass and walked out without a word. They called after me, but their voices faded as the door closed behind me. I wasn't just hurt. I was already planning. The rain matched my mood as I paced my apartment that night, phone pressed to my ear. My old college friend Julian, now a corporate lawyer, confirmed what I already suspected. They used their 30% stake from that first investment to reallocate control, he explained, his voice tight with disbelief. It looks like they created a new shareholder agreement that gives Melody 51%. Ariana, they shouldn't have been able to do this without your signature. 5 years ago, when I was desperate for startup capital, my parents had invested $50,000 in exchange for 30% of my company. It was meant to be a symbol of their support. I'd been so grateful, so trusting. How is this even legal? I demanded, my voice cracking. Julian hesitated. It's possible they found a loophole in your original agreement. Did Mitchell Graves draw up your documents? Mitchell, my family's trusted attorney for 15 years. The man who'd helped me incorporate Veritas. Yes, I whispered, a cold realization settling over me. I trusted him completely. I think your company lawyer may have been involved, Julian said gently. Family business can get complicated. I hung up and stared out at the rain-streaked city lights. Blood isn't loyalty. That was my first hard lesson. Mitchell Graves's corner office had always felt like a safe space. Now it felt like a trap. He couldn't quite meet my eyes as I confronted him. Did you know about this, Mitchell? I asked, sliding the shareholder document across his polished desk. He adjusted his glasses, fingers trembling slightly. Ariana, you have to understand. Just answer the question. He sighed, shoulders slumping. Yes, I drew up the papers. Your father insisted it was for the best. White-hot anger surged through me. You've been my lawyer for 5 years. You were supposed to protect my interests. I was doing what the family wanted, he said weakly. Your father convinced me you were working too hard, making rash decisions. He said Melody's business degree would provide stability. Melody's business degree. The one she'd barely used in her string of 6-month jobs. I stood up, gathering my documents. You're fired, Mitchell. I'll have your firm transfer all Veritas documents by end of day. That afternoon, I hired Inez Rocha, a ruthless attorney known for handling corporate betrayals. She reviewed my case with sharp, calculating eyes. If this happened once, she warned, it'll happen again, unless you burn the house down. I nodded slowly, understanding exactly what she meant. I was reviewing quarterly projections with my marketing team when our meeting room door swung open without warning. Melody strutted in, dressed in a designer suit that screamed corporate executive, though she'd never held a management position in her life. Sorry to interrupt, she said, not sounding sorry at all. Ariana, a word? My team looked at me uncertainly. I nodded for them to take a break, and they filed out, casting curious glances at my sister. What are you doing here, Melody? I asked once we were alone. She settled into my chair at the head of the table. Getting acquainted with my company. She emphasized the word my with a smile. By the way, I've decided to let Kelly go. Kelly? My executive assistant? My voice rose. You can't just... Actually, I can. Majority rights. She examined her manicured nails. She's too loyal to you. I need someone who understands the new leadership structure. After she left, I called my IT director. We needed to secure our systems immediately. While reviewing access logs, he discovered something alarming. Melody had already been in our servers, downloading confidential documents, including a file labeled acquisition proposals. My stomach dropped. I dug deeper and found emails between Melody and Cinetech Media, our biggest competitor. She wasn't just taking over my company. She was planning to sell it out from under me. The investor meeting was going well until Eric Foster, one of our earliest backers, pulled me aside. "Ariana, I need to be honest with you," he said, lowering his voice. "I've heard concerning things about your stability." My pulse quickened. "My stability?" Eric looked uncomfortable. "Your father called me last month. He mentioned you've been making erratic decisions, working unhealthy hours, becoming controlling." I struggled to keep my expression neutral as Eric continued. "Then your mother reached out to my wife at their charity function. She implied you were having some sort of breakdown, that the family was stepping in to protect the company." The betrayal cut deeper than I could have imagined. While I'd been working 18-hour days to grow our valuation, my parents had been poisoning my reputation behind my back. "How many other investors have they spoken to?" I asked quietly. Eric hesitated. "Most of them, I believe." The next morning, I received an email from Westlake Capital withdrawing their promised second-round funding. The reason cited was leadership concerns. 3 years of relationship building, destroyed by whispers. I sat alone in my office, the weight of this new betrayal crushing my chest. My own parents had been methodically undermining me for months. The question was no longer if I would fight back, but how hard. The quarterly financial review was typically routine, but today I was looking for something specific. 3 hours into combing through statements, I found it, a pattern of transfers I'd never approved. "Can you pull the details on this account?" I asked our CFO, pointing to a recurring $10,000 monthly transfer. He frowned. "That's strange. It's coded as family consultancy fees, but I don't recall any family consultants." The details revealed an account under MB Family Holdings, MB for Melody Blake. For over a year, $10,000 monthly payments had been flowing directly to my sister and parents. I dug deeper. Credit card statements showed purchases at luxury retailers, high-end restaurants, even payments toward Melody's Aspen condo, all coming from this account. "Who authorized these payments?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. The CFO checked the signature logs. "Melody Blake, authorized financial representative." He looked up, confused. I didn't know she had signing authority. Neither did I. They had been stealing from my company, from me, for over a year. While I'd been reinvesting my modest salary back into growing Veritas, they'd been draining it to fund Melody's luxury lifestyle. I closed the file and took a deep breath. "I need these accounts frozen immediately." "Remember when we were kids?" Melody asked, lounging on my office sofa, uninvited. "We said we'd build something big together someday." I continued typing, refusing to engage with her nostalgia play. The memory surfaced anyway. Us at 12 and 14, huddled under a blanket fort, making grand promises by flashlight. Blake Sisters Enterprises, we'd called it. We'd sworn to be partners forever. "I've kept our promise," Melody continued, studying her reflection in her compact mirror. "You just didn't realize it included me owning it." I finally looked up. "Is that how you justify stealing from the company? The $10,000 monthly payments?" Her smile faltered slightly. "That was Dad's idea. He said we deserve compensation for our investment risk." "Your investment risk?" My voice shook. "While I was sleeping on a futon in the office to make payroll, you were using company money for ski trips?" She snapped her compact shut. "Don't be so dramatic. Family takes care of family." "You're right about that," I said, my voice deadly calm as I slid a document across my desk. "Which is why I've terminated all family consultancy payments, effective immediately." Her face flushed crimson. "You can't do that." I stood up, matching her height. "Watch me. I'm taking my power back, Melody, every last bit of it." The phone calls started at 6 a.m. First my father, then my mother, finally Melody, all demanding to know why their consultancy payments had stopped. I let them go to voicemail. By noon, I had my assistant compile a list of every financial support I'd provided my family. My parents' mortgage payments, Melody's health insurance, her children's private school tuition, the family vacation home maintenance. I sent a simple email to each account, explaining that as part of Veritas's restructuring, all personal payments would cease immediately. Within an hour, my mother appeared at my office door, eyes red from crying. She looked smaller somehow, more fragile than I remembered. "You're abandoning us," she said, voice breaking. "After everything we've done for you." I handed her the printout. "Everything you've done? Mother, I've paid $428,000 toward your expenses in the past 3 years alone, while you and Dad were telling investors I was unstable." She paled. "We were just trying to protect the company." "From who? From me? The person who built it?" "You don't understand." "I understand perfectly," I interrupted. "You saw what I built and you wanted control of it. But you forgot something important. I built it once. I can build it again." She left in tears. I felt nothing but a cold resolve hardening in my chest. The press release hit my inbox at 8:30 a.m. Veritas Media announces new leadership vision. The attached photo showed Melody smiling broadly, with the caption identifying her as visionary leader and majority shareholder. The text claimed she had been instrumental in Veritas's growth strategy and was now stepping forward to lead the company into its next evolution. There was a single mention of me as founding team member. Team member, not founder, not CEO. The erasure was so complete it was almost impressive. Within hours, my inbox filled with confused messages from industry contacts. Then Joaquin Rivera, our oldest client, called. "Ariana, I'm confused," he said. "Are you leaving Veritas? Your sister just called me personally to ensure a smooth transition of leadership." My blood ran cold. "Joaquin, there's been a misunderstanding. I'm still very much in charge of day-to-day operations." "That's not what she said," he replied slowly. "She told me you were stepping back for personal reasons. Ariana, we've worked together for years, but I need stability. If leadership is changing." After we hung up, I learned that Joaquin had canceled our contract renewal, a $1.2 million annual account. Melody wasn't just stealing my company, she was actively sabotaging it. The resignations came in rapid succession. First, Tara from creative, then Marcus from development, finally Elena, my product director and close friend. "I'm so sorry," Elena said, her eyes downcast as she handed me her letter. "I didn't want to leave." "Then why are you?" I asked, stunned by this latest betrayal. Elena hesitated. "Melody offered us positions at the new Veritas, with higher salaries and stock options." I frowned. "She doesn't have authority to issue new stock." "She said she does, as majority shareholder." Elena shifted uncomfortably. "Ariana, she said if we didn't accept her offer, we'd be let go during restructuring anyway, with no severance." After Elena left, I called Inez Rocha. On her advice, I began recording all company meetings, a security measure for a hostile workplace. The next day, Melody held a leadership vision meeting. I sat silently in the back, my phone recording as she promised team leads expanded roles and equity packages she had no legal right to offer. "Those who aren't aligned with our new vision won't have a place here," she said, glancing meaningfully in my direction. The recording would prove to be her undoing. The industry blog post went live at midnight. "Leadership crisis at Veritas Media. Leaked audio reveals potential securities violations." The attached audio, anonymously sourced but clearly Melody's voice, detailed her unauthorized stock offers and threats against employees who remained loyal to me. By morning, it had been picked up by 3 major tech news sites. Veritas drama was trending in our industry circles. Investors were calling for explanations. I acted surprised when reporters called, saying only that the company is looking into these serious allegations. Meanwhile, Inez was quietly documenting every violation for our legal strategy. My father called at noon, his voice trembling with rage. "What have you done?" he demanded. "This publicity will destroy the company." "I haven't done anything," I replied calmly. "Melody's actions speak for themselves." "You're sabotaging the family legacy," he hissed. "After everything we sacrificed for you." I laughed, a short, bitter sound. "Legacy? You mean the company you stole from me? That legacy?" "We gave you the seed money," he shouted, "and I gave you a 1,000% return on investment," I replied. "The debt was paid. What you did next was theft." I hung up and blocked his number. The bridge was burning, but I wasn't the one who lit the match. The emergency shareholder meeting was called for 9 a.m. in our main conference room. Every investor, board member, and C-suite executive was present. The tension was palpable as I connected my laptop to the projector. "Thank you all for coming," I began, my voice steady despite my racing heart. "I've called this meeting to address serious concerns about company governance." For the next 30 minutes, I presented a meticulous case: the unauthorized bank account, the siphoned funds, the falsified press releases, the illegal stock offerings. With each slide, the room grew more silent. "This isn't just unethical," I concluded. "It's potentially criminal." I moved for an immediate vote to remove Melody Blake from any position of authority at Veritas Media. The vote was conducted by silent ballot. I watched faces carefully as each person marked their choice. Some wouldn't meet my eyes, others nodded slightly in support. When the results were tallied, my heart sank. The motion failed by a narrow margin, 52% to 48%. Melody smiled triumphantly from across the table. "It seems the shareholders still have confidence in my leadership." What she didn't see was Inez Rocha quietly photographing the voting record. We had identified exactly who had sided with Melody and why. The information would prove invaluable. I gathered my materials and nodded to the board. "This isn't over." "Your parents were clever," Inez said, spreading papers across my dining room table. "But they made one critical error." After 3 days of legal research, Inez had found something promising in Veritas's original operating agreement, a document drafted before Mitchell Graves' betrayal. "There's a ghost clause here," she said, pointing to Section 17.3. "It's called a founder protection provision. Basically, if a majority shareholder is found to have committed fraud against the company, control automatically reverts to the founder." Hope flickered inside me for the first time in weeks. "And we have evidence of fraud." "The unauthorized bank account alone qualifies," Inez confirmed, "plus the misrepresentation to employees and investors." I studied the clause, scarcely believing our luck. My father would never have agreed to this. "He probably never read the fine print," Inez said with a thin smile. "Mitchell Graves included these clauses as standard practice. Ironic that his template is what might save you now." The next morning, we filed formal charges of corporate fraud against Melody Blake with the Securities Division. We included documentation of every unauthorized transaction, every false statement, every misrepresentation. It was a declaration of war, and there would be no going back. I arrived at the office to find my key card deactivated. Security guards I'd never seen before stood at the entrance. Through the glass doors, I could see my team watching in horror as I argued with the head of security. "I'm the founder and CEO," I insisted, showing my company ID. "I'm sorry, Miss Blake," he replied stiffly. "We have orders from the majority shareholder to escort you from the premises if you attempt to enter." My phone buzzed with a company-wide email from Melody. "Due to ongoing legal complications, Ariana Blake's access to Veritas systems and facilities has been temporarily suspended." As the guards escorted me to the sidewalk, I saw Melody watching from my former office window. She raised her coffee mug in a mock toast. I stood there for a long moment, feeling the eyes of my team on me through the glass. Then I straightened my shoulders, adjusted my bag, and walked away with my head high. That afternoon, I leased a small office space in a building across town. I purchased a new laptop, created a basic website, and registered a new LLC, Solara Media Group. Melody thought she'd won by locking me out. She didn't realize she'd just set me free. The new office wasn't much, just a sun-filled room with bare white walls and a view of the city park. But it was mine. Completely, unquestionably mine. I set up my laptop on a folding table and began to work. The familiar rhythm of building something from scratch felt strangely comforting. I'd done it before. I could do it again. By evening, I had drafted a business plan for Solara Media Group, a boutique digital agency focusing on authentic storytelling for mission-driven brands, the very space Veritas had begun to neglect under Melody's leadership. My phone chimed with a text from Alina, my former product director. "Heard what happened. This is wrong. Can we meet?" Over coffee the next morning, Alina confirmed what I'd suspected. "It's chaos there. Melody doesn't understand the business. Projects are stalling. Clients are getting nervous. I'm starting something new," I told her. "Smaller, more focused. No family investors this time." Elena didn't hesitate. "I want in." Within a week, 5 former Veritas employees had joined Solara. We worked around the clock, fueled by a shared determination to build something honest. Then a notification appeared on my phone. An email from Joaquin Rivera, the client who'd canceled with Veritas after Melody's call. The subject line read, "Ready to talk when you are." "Your sister doesn't understand our brand at all," Joaquin said, stirring his espresso. "The proposals she's sending over are generic." We sat in the corner of a quiet cafe, discussing what had happened at Veritas since my departure. According to Joaquin, Melody had been slashing budgets, pushing for quick wins over quality, and alienating the creative team. "Veritas used to feel like a partner," he continued. "Now it feels like they're just chasing our money." By the end of our meeting, Joaquin had signed with Solara, bringing his $1.2 million account back under my direction. It was a significant victory, but just the beginning. That afternoon, I received an unexpected call from Lisa Powell, one of Veritas's early investors. "I've been watching this situation closely," she said, her tone measured. "Several of us have concerns about the current leadership. We'd like to discuss backing Solara instead." Lisa arranged a private dinner with 2 other investors. By dessert, all 3 had committed to pulling their remaining funds from Veritas and reinvesting in Solara. The next morning, tech blog Startup Daily published the headline, "Investors Abandoning Veritas for Founder's New Venture." Within hours, Melody had posted a furious Twitter thread, calling me vindictive and dangerous. I didn't respond. The investors' actions spoke louder than any words I could offer. The fallout was swift and bitter. My father left a voicemail calling me a traitor to the family. My mother sent a tearful email accusing me of destroying everything they'd built. I read it twice, anger burning in my chest. Everything they had built? I was the one who'd worked 100-hour weeks for years. I was the one who'd mortgaged my apartment to make payroll during the lean months. I was the one who'd built Veritas into a $20 million company. I drafted a dozen responses, but sent none. Some bridges couldn't be rebuilt. That evening, a courier delivered a package to my apartment. No return address, just my name printed in block letters. Inside was a USB drive and a note that simply read, "You should see this." With careful precautions, I checked the drive's contents. Hundreds of internal Veritas emails from the past month. My anonymous source had access to the highest levels of the company. As I read through the messages, my suspicions were confirmed. Melody had been systematically misreporting finances to investors, claiming success while projects failed. Worse, she'd begun discussions to sell Veritas's client data to competitors, a clear violation of our privacy policies. I forwarded everything to Inez with a simple message, "This changes everything." The courtroom was silent as the judge reviewed our emergency motion for injunctive relief. Melody sat with her lawyers across the aisle, her expression alternating between smugness and concern. Inez had built a masterful case, using the leaked emails as a foundation for serious allegations of securities fraud and data privacy violations. We weren't just asking for my company back. We were asking the court to freeze Melody's majority rights pending a full investigation. "Your Honor," Inez argued, "the evidence clearly shows that Miss Melody Blake has violated her fiduciary duty to Veritas Media. She has misappropriated funds, misled investors, and attempted to sell protected client data." Melody's attorney argued that I was engaged in corporate espionage and sabotage, that I was the real threat to Veritas. The judge listened to both sides, then called for a brief recess to review the evidence. 20 minutes later, he returned with his decision. "The court finds sufficient evidence to grant the temporary injunction," he announced. "Until a full hearing can be conducted, Melody Blake's majority shareholder rights are suspended." The order would restore my access to Veritas, while preventing Melody from making any further decisions. It wasn't a final victory, but it was a crucial first step. As we left the courtroom, Inez squeezed my arm. "Get ready," she whispered. "Tomorrow you walk back into Veritas." The Veritas office fell silent as I walked through the door for the first time in 6 weeks. Employees stared, some smiling hesitantly, others looking away in guilt or confusion. I headed straight for the boardroom where Melody was waiting, surrounded by her lawyers. She looked up as I entered, her face a mask of cold fury. "Enjoy your little victory," she said. "It's temporary." I sat across from her, setting a thick folder on the table between us. Actually, we need to talk. About the money you've embezzled, about the lies you've told investors, about the client data you tried to sell. I slid copies of the most damning emails across the table. Her lawyer picked them up, his expression growing grim as he read. You've violated at least 6 federal statutes, I continued calmly, not to mention breaching your fiduciary duty to this company. Melody's composure finally cracked. You'll never get the family back, she hissed. They'll always choose me. For the first time since this nightmare began, I felt a sense of clarity wash over me. Family. That's what this had always been about for her. Not business, not money, but our parents' attention and approval. I'm not here for that anymore, I replied simply. I'm here for what's mine. The video began with me sitting in Solara's sunlit office, looking directly at the camera. My name is Ariana Blake, I said. I'm the founder of Veritas Media. This is the story of how my family stole my company and how I fought back. For 17 minutes, I detailed everything. The ambush at dinner, the secret shareholder agreement, the siphoned funds, the legal battle. I was careful to stick to documented facts, sharing evidence without emotion. The video ended with my simple mission statement. I'm sharing this story because entrepreneurship is hard enough without betrayal from those you trust most. No founder should face what I faced alone. I uploaded it late on a Tuesday evening, then went to bed expecting a modest response. I woke to my phone buzzing constantly with notifications. The video had exploded overnight, 800,000 views and climbing. Founders' rights and Ariana Blake were trending. Entrepreneurs were sharing their own stories of betrayal and survival. By evening, the view count passed 1 million. Media requests flooded my inbox. Then came an email that made my heart skip. The Women's Business Alliance was inviting me to deliver the keynote at their annual conference, a platform typically reserved for household names in business. Melody hadn't just given me back my company. She'd inadvertently given me a voice. Melody's lawyer requested an urgent meeting at a neutral location, a private room in a downtown restaurant. Inez accompanied me, silent but watchful as Melody entered with her legal team. She looked different, subdued, tired, the polished exterior beginning to crack. The viral video had changed everything. Investors were demanding her resignation. Industry partners were distancing themselves. Our parents had gone silent, retreating to their vacation home to avoid the media attention. We're prepared to negotiate a settlement, her lawyer began, sliding a proposal across the table. The terms were simple. Melody would resign from Veritas, publicly admit to misunderstandings and errors in judgment, and release her claims to majority ownership. In exchange, we would drop the fraud charges and allow her a graceful exit. I studied the document, then looked at my sister. You need to admit what you did, not just misunderstandings, the embezzlement, the lies, all of it. On the record. She flinched, but nodded slightly. 2 days later, Melody issued a formal statement acknowledging her serious ethical breaches and stepping down from all roles at Veritas. She didn't apologize directly to me, but the public admission was damning enough. After the announcement, she disappeared from social media. Industry gossip suggested she'd left the country, unable to face the professional humiliation that followed her downfall. I hadn't spoken to my parents in nearly 3 months when they requested a meeting. We sat in my apartment, the space between us filled with unspoken recriminations. My mother looked aged, her usually perfect appearance showing signs of strain. My father couldn't quite meet my eyes. We made a terrible mistake, my mother began, her voice quavering. We thought Melody needed the opportunity more than you did. She's always struggled while everything came easily to you. I let out a sharp, disbelieving laugh. Easily? I worked 18-hour days for 5 years while Melody vacationed on company money. We know that now, my father said quietly. We worried about her. She was falling behind and you were soaring ahead. We thought we could balance things. By stealing my company? I asked, my voice dangerously calm. They exchanged glances, then my father reached for my hand. I pulled away. We're asking for forgiveness, he said. We're still family. I silently retrieved a document I'd prepared for this moment, a comprehensive list of every financial contribution I'd made to support my family over the years. The total, $1.2 million. I placed it on the table between us. "This was never yours to take," I said simply. Neither was my company. The acquisition deal was finalized on a rainy Tuesday morning. Veritas Media would be purchased by Solara Holdings, my new company, for a fraction of its former valuation. After Melody's mismanagement and the public scandal, the board had few options. I didn't attend the closing. Inez handled the details while I worked with the transition team. We'd retain all employees except the few who had actively participated in Melody's scheme. The company would continue under the Veritas name, with me returning as CEO. Melody's stake, once 51%, was bought out for pennies on the dollar, the value having plummeted after her public disgrace. My parents' original 30% investment was returned to them at cost, with no additional gains. They signed the paperwork without protest. That night, I stood alone in the empty Veritas office, looking out at the city lights. The company was back in my hands, but everything had changed. The innocent trust I'd once had was gone, replaced by a harder wisdom. I moved through the darkened space, running my fingers over desks and doorways. This place had been my dream, my creation, my heart. Now it was simply an asset, valuable but no longer defining who I was. Tomorrow I would begin the work of rebuilding, not just the company, but myself. Tonight I allowed myself a moment to acknowledge both the victory and the loss. 6 months later, I stood on a beach watching the sunset with 30 Solara employees, our first company retreat. The merged companies had flourished under unified leadership, growing beyond what either could have achieved alone. After dinner around the bonfire, I shared something I'd been contemplating for weeks. Solara Veritas isn't built on family obligation, I told them. It's built on respect, on trust earned, not demanded, on recognition of each person's contribution. I announced a new profit-sharing model and an employee ownership program, ensuring that those who built the company would share in its success. That same week, I launched the Phoenix Foundation, a nonprofit providing resources and legal protection for founders from underrepresented backgrounds. The foundation offered mentorship, startup grants, and most importantly, legal education about protecting your business from predatory practices. Working with young entrepreneurs helped heal something in me. Each time I helped someone structure their company safely or negotiate a fair investment agreement, I felt a piece of my old optimism return. I still caught myself checking my back sometimes, still struggled with trust. But I was building something larger than myself, a legacy defined not by family name, but by integrity and impact. My parents' betrayal had nearly broken me. Instead, it had forged me into something stronger. The wedding invitation arrived on a sunny spring morning, its cream envelope embossed with silver lettering, Melody Blake and Thomas Reed. My first instinct was to throw it away. Then curiosity won out. The invitation revealed a small, modest ceremony planned at a local botanical garden, nothing like the lavish event Melody had once dreamed of. After a week of consideration, I checked "will attend" on the RSVP card. Not to reconcile, but to demonstrate my own power to choose peace over bitterness. The ceremony was simple, but beautiful. Melody looked different, more grounded, less artificial. When she spotted me during the reception, she hesitated, then approached. "I didn't think you'd come," she said quietly. "Neither did I admitted. We stood in awkward silence until she finally spoke again. "I'm sorry," she said, the words seeming to catch in her throat. "I was wrong about everything." I studied her face, searching for the manipulation I'd come to expect. Instead, I saw only exhaustion and regret. "I know," I replied, "but I'm not angry anymore." It wasn't forgiveness exactly, but it was freedom. Freedom from the anger that had driven me for so long. I left soon after, walking alone through the garden. The company I'd built twice over was thriving. My life had taken a shape I never anticipated, stronger for having been broken. I had lost my family but found myself. And that was a foundation no one could ever steal again.